Okay, welcome everybody to this latest instalment of the Sanctuary series here at Brimscombe Mill. So wonderful to see lots of familiar faces in the audience, including ones that have fed us extremely well. Hello, welcome, good evening.
Hello.
I'm only getting the bass tones, can we check there?
That's all there is.
Okay. I think I'm going to need another wee. Welcome and thanks for coming. Are you well fed? You all well fed? Good. Good. Well, that's important, isn't it? What would you like people to know about you?
What would I like people to know about me? Well, probably as little as possible.
Yeah, okay, good.
Joking apart, it's a great privilege to be here with you. You're a man that both of us admired for a long time, and the project that you've confected, brought into being here, is great. The vibe is terrific. The people are of... I was fearing that you were going to be a bit like Totnes.
Oh, good grief. No, we love Totnes, but we're not like, we're very, we're Stroud.
Yeah, I know. Be careful how you phrase that, because is Stroud just a little bit like rock, or is it a bit more like Hebden Bridge? No, you see, I know how to insult people really, torture them on the finger.
Stroud's its own thing, very much its own thing.
Good.
Yeah.
My whole job is to provoke you into,
of course they do.
into little acts of resistance that define who you are.
Well, you know why we're different here, don't you? Oh, maybe that's not part of it.
I don't know where to start. No, go on. I mean, I can see why
there's
you're
all
different.
sorts of very physical reasons, like the geography of the place. If you smooth Stroud out, everyone would be very far apart, but it's like a rug that's been crumpled together. And so we're all, whilst sort of rural context, we're in close proximity with each other. That's one part of what it is. And then the other thing is that with all these throughways, the train goes through there. The canal used to connect the Americas with London. It's quite more cosmopolitan than perhaps it first appears, because we're used to people moving through for a long time. And that might be why it's kind of a bit non-conformist, and so there's definitely lots of manufacturing happened here.
So how long has it been? Sorry, I think you're interviewing us. But no, forget about that.
I'm very good at this. Yeah.
How long has it been that Stroud has defined itself in this really very positively I don't know what you call it, multicultural, just to sake of the conversation, way, because to me, it's only been the last 20 years or so that I've been aware of Stroud in terms of it almost becoming not just a place, but almost an adjective.
Well, or is it not a verb, because we're always doing stuff? Well, I don't know the answer to that.
I wasn't meant to be deep. It's just that it is a really marvellous place, and there is a definite cultural frisson.
Yeah.
Since the 60s? And the 70s? Since 5 o'clock?
Gunpowder.
No, gunpowder clock. Gunpowder clock, not 5 o'clock.
I thought, I'm just thinking to myself, stay on the gin, baby.
I mean, there've been people here a long time, so, yeah. But
since the 1770s, when the canal came through, and then we had the dry port at Brimscombe, and that was completely international.
Yeah.
1770s.
So I've been doing it since then.
I told you.
Well, I wasn't expecting an answer quite so detailed. And
I'm led to believe that there was a precursor to the Luddite movement about 30 years before here, because there was so much wool manufacturing, and that balance of power between the mill owners and the workers, who had probably come from cottage industry, that was upset, and so there's always been a tussle, I'm led to believe.
Marvellous. So
social justice, things like that.
Well, we're proud to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, you're very welcome.
Marvellous. So what's the first question you're going to really ask? I mean, I want a grown-up question, not one of these, what do you want us to think about you? You know, and if you ask me if you're a biscuit, what type of biscuit would you be? I'm off.
Pink wafers.
That's what they want. That's what the people want to know. Okay, so to get into it, let's talk about starting the projects that I guess we know, the Eden project and the gardens, Heligan. What did it take to get those things started? And then I'm hoping that we can kind of get into community. And also I would love to know from you guys, what is hopeful? What gives you hope? Where do you see hope? So getting started. What does it take to get started? And what was your experience of seeing opportunity where perhaps others hadn't?
Most grown-ups are stupid. They don't realise that they spend all their time trying to act at being grown up, and the secret all the while was to channel your inner child. My employment description is a frog kisser. I believe in kissing frogs. Heligan was a sleeping beauty. I kissed a prince or princess. It came into being. I told a story, and it was really simple. Everybody wants stories of heroic people who do this, that, and the other. Actually, Heligan and then Eden were relatively simple because all we were doing was describing what was inside all of us and making it feel as if it was eminently doable. Now, with Eden, everybody says, "Oh, Tim, you're so visionary." It's not bloody visionary. Everybody in this room, when they were 10 years old, dreamt of building an Eden project or a Mad Ludwig castle on top of a mountain or a dam. We're dreaming apes. That's the sort of thing we do, isn't it? The only visionary thing was believing that we could persuade probably 300 or so people trained professionally to only use the word no to say yes. and
No mean feat.
And I discovered the secret.
Oh yeah?
Which you really need to know.
Do you share it with us?
Of course I'll share it with you. It's really easy. You need to look someone deep in the eye, always men, never women. If you do that, it doesn't work with women, this one.
Right, okay. Noted, yeah.
No, simply because the sentence doesn't make any sense if
fine.
you say it to a woman.
Okay.
You want to look a guy in the eyes and say, "Please God, you don't turn into the guy who turned down the Beatles. Your grandchildren will never forgive you and will never turn up to your funeral."
So, sort of fear mixed with shame in a kind of cocktail of...
That's a very good way of putting it. And the truth is, if you've got a good fairy story and it's big enough, that's the other thing, and that's what I love about what you're doing. For heaven's sake, don't make it too small. Because, I'm going to be really serious for a moment.
Okay.
This is my philosophical belief. It's going to be the last serious thing I say. Okay. I believe that inside every one of us there is a little golden coffee bean. And that golden coffee bean, it's a metaphor, of course. I don't believe you've got a problem.
Setting off metal detectors.
To be honest, at dinner I was wondering, but you know. No, but seriously, and I believe that little golden coffee bean is the sum total of your disappointment at yourself when you compare yourself today to the person you dreamt you could have been when you were 17. The secret of a great adventure is to present a stage for a whole group of people, which you don't need to own. It's a canvas, but it's a canvas so marvellous that people can forget that they wanted to be a Wimbledon champion, now they're 70. They actually suddenly believe, actually what I always wanted to do is that. I always wanted to work with Tom here. I can actually see how this can be like nuclear fission in terms of community building and all the rest of it. And once you start to think like that, you suddenly discover that people want to volunteer and be part of it. It's all in the story. Everything is in the story because we are storytelling apes. And you are a master of it. Well, the storytelling. To be honest,
And being an ape as well, to
I-
a certain extent. Yeah. By the way, there's a climbing gym opening upstairs this week. Yeah. Very excited about
to
that.
be honest, Prescient is my middle name.
What unusual middle name? David, what you've been in close proximity to this. What can you share about the experience of getting started or getting involved?
Well, so I come from Cornwall originally. I was born and bred in St Austell, and the truth is, when I was growing up down in Cornwall, frankly, a lot of us thought that the best thing that we could do was to leave, because rich history of mining, go back, lead, copper, tin, China clay in my era. Great if you want to film a Doctor Who film in the 70s, you could use the clay tips, but otherwise they didn't really know at that stage how to turn them green to grow things on them. Like many people, I left. And I think what Heligan and then particularly Eden have done for Cornwall is to give it that sort of sense of hope and to give it a sort of sense of this is a place not to end a career, but perhaps to start one. And that just didn't really exist at the time that I was there. I think, without embarrassing my friend here, the two projects are very different. So, it's in the public domain. Many people thought Tim was completely mad to take on Eden, because whereas Heligan, I think all of us could imagine cutting through the brambles and sort of seeing the shape of something that was there and imagining sort of restoring it. That's quite in a sense, a normal thing to do. Where am I going here? Then restoring it, bringing it back to good heart. I think a lot of us have that sort of within us that we want to do. When you stood, as I did as a kid, on the edge of China clay pits, and you see that we've effectively rapaciously ripped out what was in there, it's sterile, it's derelict, there's nothing there. And someone says, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the largest plant conservatories on planet Earth down there, and there's going to be a rainforest in that. And most people at that point go, really? And the truth is then to do that and to actually deliver it, as the team did, and for it still to be there 25 years on, has completely changed a generation. And I see it with my kids. Actually, they don't know actually now at the age of 18 of a place in Cornwall without the Eden project. And I'm not giving all the credit to Eden, by the way, or to Tim, but I think it was part of a revolution in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was money invested into things like Falmouth University and other stuff. That just does give you the sort of sense of a place sort of coming up. And that now acts as that sort of beacon of hope to others in Qingdao, in China, in Morecambe now, in Dundee, and.
Yeah.
And I'm his carer.
Stop it. So,
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
He's just my ex-carer.
we've got a job for you here.
I have got the hearing aids.
So interesting, just noticing how the narrative around, your kids or Cornwall has the Eden project in it, and I was learning the other day about there's even a space project in Cornwall as well, isn't it? Which is feeding into schools and what the youngsters there are learning. I heard a great story from here. One of my teammates, Will North, he's got a couple of young kids, and one of them said, who's I think 4, said, can I take this toy to kids stuff so I can get a new one? And so we've been doing this, collecting things that are no longer needed, toys and clothes that kids grow out of, and then finding a way of getting them through the shop back into the community, all the while generating employment for quite a few people. And but the good outcome that we hadn't spotted is that a child growing up in that's how they perceive that this exchange works. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They've never known any different.
And I think that's the thing. Look, when I was growing up, people would say, you've got to become an accountant, a lawyer, a surveyor, all these professions. We need a few more ecologists around the place. We need a few more people who are social activists. We need those professions that perhaps we haven't thought about. And, people talk about AI a lot. AI is going to just wipe many of those professions out. So we're going to need, if you think about community going forward, what you're doing here and what many people are doing, What's a global solution? It's lots of locals added together. So if we can get communities, working together in the way that you've just said, in the way that it does in Cornwall, then it's got to be a better thing, and it's got to then get embedded within our children and their children. And this whole idea of intergenerational trauma, we've got to deal with that within our society. And we'll probably come on to that later. But if we can have intergenerational hope on the other side, that's got to be a great thing, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Where should we go? Hope. You're just bringing it in. How in setting out, you've got the story. You're looking for the golden bean inside people, kissing frogs, telling a story that people can join in with. And along the way, you've got to find a way of the people that are trained to say no might come and say yes. Can you give some examples of where there's been shifts that might appear to be countercultural or that have built momentum in a direction that's wanting to happen?
Well, yes, but as I was explaining to you over dinner, I'm very aggressive about hope. I don't like wishy-washy hope.
No.
All that. Well, we got to be hopeful.
Yeah. Like Theresa May going through the cornfields, kind of. So give us a better example.
Okay. Okay. There is hopefulness, and there is the cancer going through our society, which is predominantly middle-aged men. Middle-aged men who think it's grown up to pretend we're doomed.
Right.
They are so dangerous because they think it's an adult thing to make jokes about the American president or whatever, and the whole world's going to hell in a handcart. And what that means is two things. One is it shows how profoundly mediocre their brains are to think that we are in a place of such doom, because in my view, we are living at a time which is more exciting than since humans came down from the trees onto the savannas. There has never been a time as good to be alive as today. And yet a whole bunch of jerks have created this self-fulfilling journey of let's feed on our dystopia, when in fact the science that is coming out of a whole bunch of scientists for the first time in my life becoming more polymathic in the way they see the world, because we've been siloed for a very long time. Everything's been in one subject or another. And I think we've come to almost the end of that cul-de-sac, and the world of the sciences and the humanities, culture in the wide sense, are coming together in a way to realize that to make something complete, it's got to be genuinely whole, as in holistic. And the establishment that exists treats words like holistic as if you were some kind of hippy-dippy guy. Let's all wear patchouli oil and have open-toed sandals and eat nut cutlets. Well, fuck off. I'm not like that. I don't believe in that. I want people like us to demonstrate that we can be kind, we can be good, we can be inspired by the future, that we can love, that we can do all of those things. And we can also read a balance sheet, and we know how to build something. And business isn't of itself a bad thing. It's just the jerks who run it who don't have a moral compass. But actually, I think the future is brighter than bright. And I was at a do in Bristol last night, and I said, it is my serious view that I hope that every single person over 40 who tells a story about the end of the world and how doomy it is, they lose a year of their life. I really do. Every time I hear an old geezer of one kind or another talking about how doomed we are, I think there goes another ignorant shit who should die now. Other than that, I'm really reasonable.
It's great. I'm trying to decide if I'm out of my depth or not. That's really good. How's it been working together?
Well, I was just drawn to.
By the way, these are my socks that I got from Cornwall. No problemo.
No,
that's my
it's
attitude.
Cornish accent.
Yeah. No problemo.
I was just drawn to going to China for the first time with Tim, and thinking about hope. And we had many goes in about 2013, 2014 of looking at projects in China. And we turned up in this city of Qingdao, a small city of 8.3 million people that truthfully neither of us had ever heard of. We stood on the shoreline of this land which had prawn breeding on it. It was really high in nitrate. It was pretty horrible. It was pretty bleak. There was a river on either side, and Tim stood there with the mayor of Qingdao, and he said, when we do this project, we shall swim in that river. And the guy looked at him like, that's a sewage works. And I was there last week, actually. I didn't swim in the river. I was in the river. Why? I was in the river, and the project is there, 10 years on, and it's really interesting because the narrative that we hear about what's happening elsewhere in the world can be rather different when you actually get on the ground. And when we go to China, we're lucky. We have incredible interpreters, and the thing that we feel, I think, both of us, more than anything. Apart from perhaps the food that resonates with us, is that we laugh. And our media never tell us the story about how we're actually very much like the people in China. There might be 1.3 billion of them and only, 65, 70 million of us. But they want the same things. And our media will have us believe that they don't understand what's going on with the environment. And they will have us believe all these other things that are going on. When you stand at a project there and you realise that this has been transformed, this land, in the same way as Eden was in Cornwall, and you hear the people talking about their Eden and what it's doing to their communities and so on, you realise that actually you can start this little project which started at Heligan, went to Eden, and is now going elsewhere, and you can actually take some hope, we've kissed a few frogs in Tim's language along the way. But we also have to recognise that people generally want the same things. And we've seen it all over the world. If you type into Google, what do I do with a big hole in the ground that's had a mine in it, Eden will come up. So we used to get calls from lots of people. There's 3,000 mines in Australia alone that probably need some help. And most of them we didn't go near. But there are some, and they were always the stories where there was a community behind it that wanted to make some sort of difference frankly, to themselves and their children. And we're inherently suspicious about people that say that they're doing it for their children. How about we do it for ourselves as well and get it right going forward? So I don't know if that's a story of hope. I just led you back to the mayor. He's no longer the mayor, by the way. He died of dysentery or something like that.
Swam in the river. Oh dear. I also have noticed I've had the privilege of travelling around a lot, and wherever we go, food for me was always at the centre of it, and just noticing how good it is. Like most cultures have a tradition of eating together, much more than we do over here. So that was
But that tremendous thing of a round table in China, where everyone sits around and the food goes around. Yeah. Can I just add something, by the way? I was in China last week, and I went to a place called Zhijuanbana, which is in the far southwest, right on the Laos border.
Can you say that again?
Zhijuanbana.
And again?
And again, Zhijuanbana. You've got to get
your turn.
I can't say that word. It's,
try.
No, I don't. This isn't a therapy group. Just get on with it.
Sorry. So it's in Yunnan, which is the bits of Yunnan are tropical, and it has a fantastic botanic garden. But there was a guy there who's now 67, and 30 years ago he decided that he would take this barren land on the side of a mountain for reasons that aren't really clear. He just felt it was the right thing to do, and he's planted now 10 million trees on this mountainside. Which is staggering itself, but what he told me was that when he started, all of the villagers came round and stole his trees. So he had to then work out how to get the villagers to understand that he was trying to do good, he was trying to help them, and now they're all engaged with this project and all engaged with various very small scale commercial activities. That project alone is, I have to say, is the best thing I've seen in China, and I've been more than 40 times to China now. And I've seen a lot of projects, a lot of holes in the ground, a lot of bleak landscapes, a lot of restoration projects. That single project gave me so much hope, Because the only other project it looked like was a project that you and I went to in Costa Rica that we're still involved in,
Right.
where similarly a guy 35 years ago had bought up 34 farms, small-scale dairy farms, added them back together, and in his words, let the birds, shit it back to life. And now you've got dry tropical forests over 4,000 hectares that is changing the weather patterns, that is actually creating these habitats and part of a habitat corridor. So one person can make all the difference, but better still, you get a group of people together, and that really then drives it. So, and those two projects are in opposite sides of the planet, but trying to do the same thing. And don't let anyone tell you that people aren't trying to heal the land and heal their communities all over the world.
Great. Have you seen anything? Isn't there the green stripe that's going across the in Africa across the Sahara Desert?
Yeah.
That's a massive project, isn't it? Is that? Do you know anything about that? Is that going on?
As much as you just said.
Okay.
There's
more to find out, isn't there?
There's more to find out. I mean, it's funny. I'll send you over dinner that look, climate change is obviously a thing, but interesting. We did an article about how climate change had affected us in August in terms of our path network at Heligan being washed away because the rain came after a hot summer. That article has had more clicks than almost anything else that we've done, because what happened is the title says something like, tourism boss says climate change is a thing. So all of the anti-brigade pile in, and then all of the positive brigade pile in. So if you want to get a message out about something related, it's really interesting how that stimulates debate. That shows the problem with the algorithm, by the way, as well. But the Saharan project is part climate change, as I understand it, and part that people are actually trying to do the right thing. And beyond that, I know nothing more. So you're on your own.
Well, I was hopeful for a moment when I saw that you've started heating Eden with the massive great hole you've dug into it, because it gets quite cold here, and I wonder if we could borrow the drill. And then it turns out it's really expensive. But that seems like an amazing project. What can you say about that?
Well, we've dug a hole 5.3 kilometers deep. The temperature at the base is 189 degrees centigrade. The temperature...
We don't need it that hot. I forgot to say.
No, well, no, when you die, that's where you're going.
Okay. I think 6 foot will do me fine.
And we're going to be putting some new pipes down so that the surface temperature at the moment is 78 degrees because of the heat loss as you come up from 5K. Yeah. When the second pipe goes down, the temperature at the surface will be 189, and it will be powering turbines and creating electricity. And eventually, when we have 5, which we hope we'll have within 18 months, that will generate enough energy for 30 homes. See, the thing is, you have to face it, guys. I know you're in a really smart place called Stroud, but you may not have noticed, with all of the pessimism that you may have been nurturing with your yogurt, we're being led by fucking donkeys. The people in charge of this country don't understand that if you borrowed a bit of money from the future, we could make ourselves as a nation energy independent and thereby food independent, 2 of the major planks for any civilization. But nobody is offering us. Remember what I said about we are storytelling apes? Have you seen either, well, a storyteller, just a storyteller, stay there, in our political midst that isn't so obsessed by the little nitpickings between each other that they paint a picture of what we could become? And that's why localism, muscular localism, is so important, because we're not going to have a future led by politicians. Politicians will respond to what they see us doing. Let me tell you about deer.
Yes, please.
One of the things that's really interesting about deer, and they've only just discovered this by the use of satellite tracing of over 100,000 deer on the Canadian-American border. And they were tracing them because of the high death rates of deer and people on the East-West Highway. And they were trying to see what were the movement bits and where did the deer cross that highway. They discovered two things that were absolutely extraordinary. Half this audience will only find one of the things extraordinary. The first thing that was amazing was the moment they all decided they were going to migrate, deer over 600 miles apart started to move at exactly the same time. That's pretty astonishing, isn't it? The bit that half the audience will sympathize with is us chaps have always believed that if you were to say what were the leaders of herds of deer, they were stags. Well, have I got news for us chaps? They discovered, to their astonishment, that the lady folk deer, they got up. Yeah, this isn't a quiz. but here's a silver star anyway. Right, the lady folk get up, they sniff the air, and they say, right, we're going that way. And then the guys go, fuck, we're supposed to be the leaders, and they gallop round the back and they go to the front. You know, isn't that amazing?
It's an example for our politicians, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a reason I'm telling you this.
Yeah, okay, right.
You haven't clocked it. No, the reason I'm telling you this is that what you think is so and what is so are often very, very different.
I'm used to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I've met your wife. She's far more intelligent. No,
Yeah.
sorry, the exciting thing is
Yeah.
that if you leave dystopia aside, the research that is going on around the world that is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Remember, that I'm an old geezer, I'm 71. When I was young, the first musical I went to see was Hair. I'd like to say it was a cultural reason, but it was also the first musical in which people had taken their clothes off, which I thought was pretty exciting at the age I was then. You will remember, those of you in older timbre will remember, the theme song of that musical was The Age of Aquarius, right? The chorus line of that song goes, we are stardust. Do you remember that? We are stardust. Which was stolen from Carl Sagan, the great astronomer, who says, one day soon our new civilization will evolve in humankind based on realizing that we are all star stuff. That's what he said in 1969. So in the time that I've been alive, going from wearing, an Afghan coat and being a bit hippy-dippy to, let's call it, the early 80s, where they discovered the microbiome and the invisible world that, makes
We've just
us.
been feeding.
Yeah, exactly. And they've now discovered, David might tell you about, we've joined the Soil Stars, which was funded by, is made up by U2 and a whole bunch of people. But over the last 15 years, on top of the invisible biome, the research, much of it done by several people who live in your town, has been uncovering the world of mycorrhiza, mycelium, which is being seen in the same light as the microbial work inside ourselves. How close are we to a realization that we are part of nature? But it's science that's got us there, but it was storytelling that made us look for it and believe in it now. And that's just unbelievably exciting, isn't it? Because it means that while we may be depressed, a really exciting thought is, a tree, a year before it finally dies, has its greatest flowering. So when you look at the world of politics and the maniacs leading many of the countries of the world and think of trees, doesn't it make you hopeful?
Looking at trees is always a hopeful thing. I think the gardens and the planting of things seems like a hopeful act in and of itself. you've got to be hopeful to garden, haven't you? Don't you think?
In Britain, yes. I think so. I mean, if you look at a great oak, or pick your favourite species, and we did this with the redwoods, didn't we? In California, you stand next to a tree that's been there for 2,500, 3,000 years, and you realise that it's had all of these civilizations and all of these people gone past, and what it's seen in its life, and that all started from a small act, didn't it? At some point,
Amazing, isn't it?
It's pretty amazing, and I think there's something about gardens for many of us, and certainly one of the things I learned, having come from a sort of different environment into this, is that horticulturalists will genuinely have 50 to 100 year plans. Those of us in business are lucky if you can even predict the next year, and all 5 year plans and all that sort of stuff. And you see it particularly at places like the Royal Botanic Gardens in Victoria, I remember, which I know well. A guy called Guilfoyle had this amazing vision of planting these avenues and the way that things would look 100 years from now. Knew that he'd never see it. And that's actually how horticulturists and gardeners think. So not only are they feeding people, as Tim said, they're also thinking about what it is to be human, and beauty being sort of part of the human condition. And was it earlier we were talking about this, that this moment of this time of year where the light is getting earlier and longer, and that sort of everything springing into life is just a beautiful period, isn't it? It's just such a moment to sort of be alive. And I like Cornish mizzle and rain and everything that we have down there over the winter, but we've had a hell of a winter this year. So this year really feels like everyone's been waiting to kind of come out. And it just reminds you that you're human. And I think gardening is sort of part of that. There's tending it, there's.
There's a saying, isn't there, about planting a tree that, you might not sit under. Or maybe we get to sit under trees that other people have planted. My family go back many generations in baking, so that would be an equivalent kind of thing. Having something that can be passed on is a hopeful thing.
Yeah.
Do you have wild dogs guarding your sourdough mix?
That's where I was going.
Well, they wouldn't like it to be called that, but I suppose it's part of the job description. Yeah. Channel that. Yeah.
Think how we all.
Sorry.
Go on. Yeah.
Just even better than wild dogs, actually.
Your dad.
Is the sourdough starter, this living thing, can be shared, and so other people can do it and make it their own, and do. And when there was that disaster in Japan, the tsunami took out lots of things, including one of the oldest soy sauce factory, and that has a mother element to it also. But they were able to get it back from a customer, and start the thing again. Well, so, a living culture is beyond
definitely
bricks and
I saw
water.
a red kite for the first time yesterday in Cornwall. So they've finally made their way down. And you probably know the story, reintroduced into Wales, down into Berkshire, and were reintroduced from Spain. Originally here, and have moved their way down the motorways. And I was standing with Tim's wife yesterday, and she said, "I'm sure that's a red kite." And we both looked at it. It was a red kite, being hassled by some seagulls, which seems really very Cornish. But that
I thought they were from Devon or something.
Exactly. Oh no, we don't want them. No, not that sort of red kite. Yeah. But now what's happened is the original stock in Spain have been wiped out, so they're being reintroduced from the guys here back into their original homeland, which is kind of a circularity that we don't. On one level, you don't want it, but isn't it great? So,
it's amazing, isn't it? In Spain, when kites go to the cinema, which they do quite a lot. Just imagine the new kites; they're like new actors on the block. They're going to speak with like a Cornish accent. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. They're going to know. No, they're not going to speak in Cornish. They're going to know how to steal pasties and fish and chips out of people's hands. So that's what they're going to learn.
Watch your tapas. Yeah. There's while we're in Spain, nearby in Barcelona, Catalan. There's when you were talking about the trees and how old they are and how big these things are. I was thinking of the Sagrada Familia that's
Yeah.
nearly being finished. And we went there when we were first, 25 years ago, I think. And that's been slow. Like some projects just take a long time, don't they? Good ones as well.
And what a project.
What a project.
What a project.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how so many people are talking about the Sagrada Familia? Is it in the air? It is about to be finished. So it's amazing.
Finished, yeah.
Can we go back to potatoes?
Yes, please.
Sorry, we weren't talking about potatoes, but
let's talk
David's
about
point.
potatoes.
We have a very large collection of potatoes at not Eden, at Heligan, the Lost Garden of Heligan. Potatoes, right? And the owner of the largest collection of potatoes in the world, outside of the land bank of Peru, which held the Inca collection, was Mr. and Mrs. McLean, who lived outside Dundee. Well, you all knew that story, didn't you? The biggest anyway.
Not McCoy.
No. This
Okay,
is
carry
not
on.
a joking matter.
You said you wanted to have a laugh. Yeah, anyway, let's hear about
I wanted
potatoes.
to have a laugh, but not about potatoes. This is a serious issue.
Yeah.
Okay, but the point is that Mr. and Mrs. McLean, when we restored Heligan, we discovered the rare varieties of potato that used to grow there that had obviously since gone.
Right.
It required just one phone call, and the varieties were on the way to us from Mr. and Mrs. McLean. How nice was it? Wrong word, but let's use it for the sake of this conversation. When about 5 years later they suffered from potato blight, and their hugely valuable collection was under threat, and we were able to send them back. And I knew you were wondering, where is today the second greatest collection of potatoes? It happens to be at the Botanic Gardens in Dundee, because Mr. McLean died, and then Mrs. McLean died, and they willed it to the Botanic Garden of Dundee. Look, it was worth coming just to hear that, you know.
Another reason to go to Dundee, as if we needed more.
Yeah.
Great marmalade as well. Yeah.
They say about Dundee, it is the city of 3 J's.
Right.
Jute, jam,
Yeah.
and what's the third one?
Potatoes.
It's journalism.
Journalism, right? Yeah.
Because you knew, didn't you? The Beano is printed in Dundee.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. But we're going to talk now about community, right?
Yep.
Well, David landed us the project in Dundee. They wanted to take a huge gasworks on the side of the River Tay and translate it into something majestic. And it's got these big gas lighters. You know, do you call them lighters? You know, the big gas gasometers. Right. We were going to turn it into the equivalent. If you know anything about rock music, do you know what a Marshall amp looks like?
Yeah.
A Marshall amp's got a red glowing valve. We were going to create green glowing valves in this place. And one of the most exciting things about community is this. He put in train this thing of asking the local people what they wanted. Did they care about an Eden project? Ha! They didn't give a toss about an Eden project. The biggest estate, I think, in the whole of Europe, housing estate, is in Dundee, behind our gaslighters. And the city fathers, in their madness, had built this estate behind the gasworks, and then between the estate and their river, the River Tay, had built a motorway and a railway line. It's got the highest death rate from drug overdoses of any city in Europe. So when we asked people what they wanted a bridge. More than anything on God's earth, they wanted a bridge to get down to their river. And it's true, isn't it, David? I mean, it was really weird. We had these conversations about the excitements of Eden's creative design, where genius says it's going to be marvellous. And it took a couple of months for us to realise, you know what? What's really marvellous is if we can be like Trojan horses, and what we'll build first is a bridge. And you know what? The moment that we became champions for a bridge, we belong to Dundee. It's very profound.
There's a great lesson in that.
It's a great lesson.
Give people what they want.
Mm.
Wow.
It's his fault, but yeah. But it's fun though. It's fun to actually have what your heart tells you should happen in the children's books. When you dare to do it, the weirdest thing is, it works. Isn't that nice?
Great.
It's your turn now.
That goes straight into Band of Brothers, talking of hopeful and changed things. Would you mind telling us a bit about that, David? I thought that was...
Well, I was conned,
Oh.
is what happened. So I was asked by a very good friend of, actually both of ours, whether or not I come from St Austell, and this guy said, "You want to do something good for St Austell, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, go on then." He said, "You've got to come down to High Cross Street on a Thursday night." And so I went in, and there was this sort of group of men sitting in a sort of circle, about 7 or 8, and it turned out not to be anything about trying to sort out St Austell directly, although actually indirectly completely about that. And a Band of Brothers is a mentoring organisation. It's for young men, young being 18 to 25, who are, I think you'd say, seriously challenged in life. They may well be coming out of prison. They may be at risk of going into prison. They certainly likely to have been in care. And we take them on a 12-week mentoring journey. We talk about, to be a mentor, you go trained. So if you're only over 35, then you are classed as an older man, which was a bit of a shock to start with. And we then work through a 12-week program. It leads up to a rites of passage weekend. And then what it does is the young men then become part of a community. They become part of that circle and are held within community. And it's national charity. I become a trustee because we've got things in Cornwall. We've not got one in Stroud yet, but I think our general manager is moving here, so there might well be a circle coming to Stroud pretty soon, and Brighton and Manchester and various places. And the results are actually staggering when you step back. And by the way, Band of Brothers is just one organisation. We're about mentoring, but there's other organisations like Football Beyond Borders. There's 2020 Levels in London, which is using entrepreneurship. There's so many people trying to tackle this, because I think you've probably seen Adolescents on the team. You've seen the Manosphere with Louis Theroux, and whether a lot of the guys that have got involved in it from a mentoring point of view have got involved because they actually want to help everybody in society. So yes, we're helping the young men, but it's about actually giving them a sort of purpose and a drive in life. So it's something that's become incredibly important to me over the last few years. So and is hopeful when you see these young men coming in and not really being able to talk. The first time so just to give you a sense of a mentoring journey. You meet in a public place, so pick your local Costa, Cafe Nero. All you know about that young man might be that he's called, pick a name, Tim. And you know almost nothing apart from his name, and then you take him through a journey. So to start with, he may not well want to engage. And there are examples of young men who've been let down time and time and time again. So, one of the things is, you say you're going to turn up at 9 o'clock, you say stay there at 9, and if he doesn't turn up, you stay until 10, and then that's the hour done. And there's an apocryphal story with that, where one young man didn't turn up for the first week, mentor came back the second week, he didn't turn up again. On the third week, he walked in exactly at the allotted time, and he said, "I wanted to check that you were really in it for me, because I've been let down by men in my life always." And so this community then builds from there.
Wow. So there's a chance that might be coming to Stroud. Is there anything that you're needing or looking for with regards to that?
Well, look, the funding situation in Britain is not exactly great. So, what it requires is actually people putting up their hand to be mentors. So we've just started a circle in mid-Cornwall. There was already one in Falmouth, one in Penzance. So the nearest circle here is Bristol. So having some pioneer men, as they're called, that are wanting to engage in this work, and it's something that we can then engage with. And you need 5 or 6 to start you off, in effect, to get going, because it's a regular sort of commitment. And some circles take a couple of years to build, and it takes a while to get known. That old joke that Tim and I often tell, which is takes decades to be an overnight success. That idea of being accepted into a community, it doesn't happen immediately. So, and people knowing that you're around. The other thing is that I think there's something about whether it's mentoring, whether it's volunteering in a different way, just getting involved in these things is, and it can be sports coaching. It can be youth club stuff. And there's now something called the Trusted Adult Guarantee. So I was part of a group called the Lost Boys Task Force, which has influenced government policy now to put money into that. How they're going to spend it, we don't yet know. But actually the return of youth clubs, the return of youth organisations has got to be something that we've got to find a way of supporting. So, and it needs people like us. And that's why I do it.
Wonderful. And just to weave into that some of the things that are happening here, we've just...
Seamless.
We've learned that we've just learned that we're going to receive crisis resilience funding for lots of the things that are already happening here, which is going to be great. But early on, we worked with the NHS and Bristol University and got a thing going called the Men's Table, which is about getting guys together to address issues of health and well-being. And that's been fantastic. And the group, some of the guys are here tonight, still meet together, and we see that in and of itself is really valuable. But the thing that has just happened that I really love most about this place, Brimscombe Mill, we've just finished the most recent cohort of Teenage Kitchen, which is 15-year-olds in year 10. And we teach them how to cook from scratch. But the thing that I love is that on the first cohort, a young guy called Owen came in and was part of that. And he really took to it. And he started an apprenticeship and quite quickly became one of our cooks here at the Long Table. And he now runs some of the services that we do here. And for a couple of years now, he's been running Teenage Kitchen. One of the earlier ones, I asked him to help me out. We were cooking over a campfire as one of the sessions. And I asked him how he thought it could be better. And he, as part of a debrief, and he said, well, if you let me do it. And he's been doing it ever since. And I suppose what I wanted to say, just bringing those kind of examples here, always looking for ways to gather people together, is the sense that we're looking to call out. I don't know whether it's a golden coffee bean. I need to really let that one percolate. But there's like planting a seed, whether it's planting a seed in someone or perhaps more of like passion for food, or more likely seeing what's in them that needs cooling out and space made and so on. And when we see that happen and people step into a role, a job, a vocation, that's just amazing.
It's not telling them what to do, it's showing them the possible. And I think, one of the things that Tim and I share is that we believe in the good of people. Most people are fundamentally good. It's just they may have taken a path, and many of the best mentors that we have are people that actually might well have been in the criminal justice system or just avoided it, and there by the grace of God for many people. Biggest killer of under 40s in the UK males? Suicide. Number of young people that don't have a trusted adult in their life in the UK between 18 and 25. 635,000 young people under the age of 25 say that they don't have a trusted adult within their lives. So the stuff that you're just talking about and showing people a path, getting them to try things, things like Scout, there's all these stuff that's out there. They've got to help us to form, kind of better societies and give not just hope, but give that sort of sense of purpose and direction, and see that it is possible to take different choices. That's what it's about. So keep doing it.
Well, likewise, thank you. well, we're touched on. Is there anything else you would like to say about community before we kind of move into the Q&A section?
There's so much you could say. What's really interesting is how the word community is used by a lot of people in a really sloppy, lazy way.
Should we have a go?
Well,
pinning it down.
If I can be a pretentious plonker, which I spend a lot of time being, I'm very good at it actually, very good. The pretentious plonker in me would say that community comes from two words in Latin, com,
with,
unos, in gift. It's an active thing. It's not a new Labour or Tory line on a map. It's about relationship.
Yeah.
It's about, you know,
so with gift.
Together in gift.
Together in gift. Okay.
So it is a marvelous sentiment. It's a great word. It's a powerful word, but it's about giving. It's not about just receiving. It's about this thing exists because we've all agreed in an emotional sense to contribute to something and make it so. And the power of that is immense.
An immediate kind of glistening example of that was when 18 months ago, I guess it was, we were served eviction on this space, and the community came around us and changed that story for us, gave us a mandate to stay, and then did the even harder bit of working out how we might do that. Could you put your hand up if you were here that evening when so many people gathered around tables and shared what could be done about finances or the legal aspects of it, or some of, thanks.
Look at the ones that weren't there.
Well, we've a lot of new friends.
No. Remember what I was saying about turning down the Beatles? Yeah. I think there's a lot of victims here.
Well, so because so many people came forward to meet us in that moment, has meant that now we're able to open that invitation to others, and there's challenges to community as well, aren't there?
The miserable middle-aged bastards.
Right.
The people who think that the word change is, or you know that change is the second least favourite word in the English language.
It does beg the question, doesn't it?
The least favourite is discharge.
Oh, right. So you put the two together, you've got a new
I
machine.
Don't. I mean, the point is, I think it's really cool to have a philosophy where everybody, if you can, leaves their prejudice at the door, because we are, all of us, so certain that we're right in what we do, that the world is completely unchangeable or untransformable unless something radical happens. To the point, we were talking at dinner, that the horrible irony that the political values I'm assuming we all share in the room of democracy, we all know in our heart of hearts, it's the end of days. Because when you know how democracy is used by people who hate change, you can see how eventually, without new ways of us talking to each other, you could end up with a kind of collective treacle where we all believe in democracy as we're stuck like flypaper, not going anywhere. It's true though, isn't it? I mean, it's real weird how that happens, and that's why places like this are so important, because you can embrace questions, big questions, and they don't have to be jeery. It doesn't have to be how someone's an idiot or whatever. It can be about talking about, well, what would you do then? Because most people are so good at defining what they don't like, and so few people spend much time actually thinking about what they do like and how they might get there. And that is one of the most positive things. And it would be so good if your brand, which lives like that, was able to almost enshrine it as a value system for all of you to just dare to be brave. If I may hog the mic for one more minute. When I was 37 years old, I decided to radicalize my own life by trusting my intuition. Since the day I trusted my intuition, which is another word for gut instinct, the second brain instinct, my dice have rolled 6 every time I've thrown them. Every time. And the other thing about that is that one of the dice I threw was to make a decision that I would go to every third invitation I was asked to. Listen
It's our
up.
lucky night, guys.
No. No. Listen up.
Yeah.
It does not mean you don't accept the
time I
first,
asked. Yeah.
but you do accept the third.
Right.
Why would you do that? There's a really, really important reason. And the reason is this. All of us are seduced by the invitation from a friend to come and have a drink or a coffee or dinner or go out to a concert. All of us are seduced by something perhaps that it comes as an invitation with a bit of white card and silver print. Our vanity is seduced by that. We will all probably attend something that is professionally to our interest. Do you know how narrow your life is becoming by being like that? There's a very famous book, the best book I've ever read, called Some by David E. Woman. And it's about 42 images of paradise. And you know what it starts with? It says, imagine all your friends. Imagine your family. Imagine the people you know that you say good morning to. Imagine you all go to heaven. Now imagine eternity. The point being, if you accept the third invitation, you're no longer in control of your destiny. Your parents may have said to you, they certainly did to me, about go to university, meet the people you need to know. The weirdest thing is after you leave university, you realize that they got it wrong. The magic of life is not about meeting the people you need to know. It's about meeting the people you didn't know you needed to know. And that's a serious point. And by accepting the third invitation, which makes you, in my case, have to judge a dog show or open an old people's home, the worst of which was to have to judge the West of England Ballroom Dancing Championships. Yeah. But
I judged Welsh love spoons once.
well,
Anyway, carry on.
you laugh at me, people. Let me shame you. The Eden Project only exists because I accepted a third invitation. I was invited to go to a Nissen hut near Taunton to speak to some people. My PA said to me, I'm told there will only be 50 people and a dog. Well, it was certainly true, the dog turned up. I spoke. I went home. Nothing. My PA didn't speak to me for the next day. She said, what a waste of your life to do that. You've got more important things to do. 3 months later, I was at the Assembly Rooms in Plymouth for a meeting of European commissioners to decide on where money should go in the Southwest. The Eden Project was not going to get a penny from Europe, not a penny. The 5 counties that were part of that famous initiative, which is on the tip of all your tongues, ERDF 5B. They'd all sewn this all up. Then suddenly, an old guy gets up and he said, my name's Humphrey Temperley, and I'm the chairman of Somerset County Council. And 3 months ago, I was in a Nissen hut near Taunton, and I heard this man speak. And it is obvious to me he has the interests of the wider Southwest in his heart than the narrow confines and interests of Cornwall. I've spoken to my colleagues, and we are prepared to drop one of our projects if all of you will drop one each. That speech in a Nissen hut was worth £12.7 million. It's the Beatles moment. All of that is true, but one thing I just wish you'd all take away with you is the sheer joy of the jeopardy of going to places you didn't really want to go to, that you felt weren't for you, because you will always meet somebody that is a pure joy, and you suddenly realize you were meant to meet that person because they would have filled you with hope about something you hadn't even thought about. That's all I want to say.
Great. Well, Brimscombe Mill, yep, great. Okay. Are the Eden Project and the Gardens of Heligan just artificial tourist attractions? What would, who's this?
Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, what would they think? Who's
Bucky?
Yeah.
Bucky Fuller. Buckminster Fuller is probably the greatest thinker of the 20th century. He designed the
Geodesic dome.
Well, the geodesic domes. He built the climatron at St. Louis. He invented a three-wheeled car that could fly. He is extraordinary. And the very first, if you get on YouTube and print in Horizon, you know the BBC program Horizon, the very first Horizon was with Buckminster Fuller, who is regarded as the greatest polymath of his age.
Wow. What would he think
Other
of
than
it?
that, he's famous.
Yeah, okay. Not fallen down that rabbit hole yet.
Operating manual to spaceship.
Operating manual for
I think we
spaceship.
get the idea. He was a very clever.
He was a serious dude. That was a really good question.
Great.
It was so good. You want to read it out again?
Are the Eden Project and the Garden of Heligan just artificial tourist attractions?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And what would
Of
Fuller
course
think?
they are. Is Westminster Abbey like that? Is the Vatican like that? Are the pyramids like that? Yes. I mean, when Pharaoh, the first Pharaoh built a pyramid, he didn't realize it was going to be that. But hey, it's not done Greece any harm. I mean, Egypt any harm. But the serious point, the serious point with all of this is we are storytelling humans. We need icons, we need symbols that draw together the emotional needs that we have. And I hope that Eden and Heligan have that kind of catalytic drawing unto itself to enable people to feel emotion or express themselves in a way that in a general world they cannot. Is that fair?
Yeah. Great. Next. What have you seen happen at Heligan and Eden that you did not expect?
We're talking not subject to the law.
No, go for it. We're in safe.
We are a broad church.
Yeah.
No. Well, I think David and I might agree. I'm putting words into his mouth. I'm being a bit of a mouthy git, aren't I? But more than 400 people have had their ashes scattered at Heligan.
Oh,
And the amount of people who come there
it's good for the compost.
to propose,
Yeah.
to get married, and most emotionally of all, who come for the last meal they're going to have out. It's just so teary, but so... And you know what that does? Sorry, I get a bit emotional whenever I think about it. But the thing, and you'll find that here, when the moment you arrive somewhere, which I'm sure you already do here, and you realize the huge vanity that you ever thought it was yours, it actually belongs to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we know that to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually
do you
is.
agree with that, Dick?
Yes.
That was a
Right,
shot.
try and find one. Okay. I lead a regenerable energy tech company. We are making sustainable energy affordable and resilient. What can Heligan and Eden teach us about how to get people on board in addition to storytelling? Plus, how can energy innovation be combined with nature?
you want me to start it for you?
You start off.
Yeah. So he's got a long drive ahead.
Oh no, we're losing David, quick. The coffee machine, fire it back up.
No.
Okay.
There is a really amazing book that's just come out, which I can't recommend highly enough, called The Light Eaters, which I like plants, okay? Now, I didn't when I started Heligan, I didn't know anything about plants. I knew green side generally faced up, but that was about it.
Right.
But when you're privileged to meet lots of people who are smart, and then you listen and you get, well, these things are great, and then you start to see them. You see them. But the light eaters is astonishing. You realize, how is it possible we humans can be in a place like this talking about questions like this and the rest of it, and we just have never been made aware, by aware I mean really, really, really aware, that the kings and queens of England are not really very important. But the fact that we are on a planet that is made by things that learnt how to eat sunlight, that created oxygen, that created a climate, you know what I mean? It's just such a big thing. And it's a little bit of our education curriculum, and most people don't know that. So the story of photovoltaics, solar energy, is the most stunningly exciting thing, which we're treating as if it's an appetite thing. Oh, it's a new thing we can have that's about energy. It isn't. It's actually almost a biblical movement towards understanding that which makes life and living with the weft and weave of the natural forces, not in a hippie shit way, but in a way that is completely about the future and us waking up. So the story you got to tell is about, this really is a Beatles story. It really is. I mean, the work these guys are doing is really important, really important. And the weirdest thing is, in 20 years' time, everybody is going to say they bought an electric car immediately. Everybody is going to say, we weren't the second on the block with photovoltaics. No. We were there. We weren't waiting around with our diesel and making an argument about how sustainability meant we were going to keep it for another 30 years because it was so unethical to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the future. Do you know, by the way, the year in which the smartphone was invented? 2007.
Yeah, that's when the iPhone came out, yeah.
Do you realize that Googling is now a verb, an adverb, an adjective, a noun? It is everywhere. Why am I saying that? The speed of which we are now adopting technology is so fast.
I heard someone say this morning that like the dial on technological progress has been probably since 2007 turned up to 11, like that Marshall lamp. And with AI coming in, it's been turned up to 700. But still processing that.
That's really, really making us old geezers feel good. I mean, just as our memories and things are slowing down, you're telling me that everything's got 700 times faster.
Yeah.
I'm really glad.
Well, there's still
I'm really glad we accepted this invitation.
Fantastic. There's still lots of questions to get into.
No.
In what ways, if at all, do you think the English country house, circa 1900, could be a model for communal life?
No.
Does this mean you're hoping we're going to have servants again?
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Actually, it's probably a model for what country life's going to be like, as you know, we divide those between who are very, 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 very rich and the rest of us. What do you think? Why don't you answer that one?
Well, if there are servants, they might be those like AI robot things. But I don't know.
I think I can take
maybe
the
it's to
question
do with
slightly somewhere
Sure.
else, which let's imagine that this was what was asked, is that the model of Heligan, which was this estate over 200 acres or whatever, did feed a population that was pretty big. So and we tell the story of the workers for that very good reason. And I was joking with our horticultural director. Why do you have 23 staff? There were only 19, back in 1850. He did point out he didn't have 350,000 visitors coming through, so it would seem like a fairly reasonable argument. But I guess if the question is about, is there something to be learned about how the land was looked after, how it was stewarded, perhaps how we had our communities at that time, then I think yes, there is. Am I suggesting that we need lords and ladies of the manor? No. But is there a way of living on the land, living alongside nature in the way that they almost certainly did in the 17th and 18th centuries? Yes, there is. And so what we see at Heligan now is the methods that we're using. Tim was talking earlier about soil inoculants. There's no point in us inoculating our soil because it's been looked after for hundreds of years in the way that it should. But people are now realising that that's probably the way that we need to go about things. So if that's what the person meant, then yes.
Great.
If they want lords and ladies in the manor coming back for Heligan House, no.
I don't imagine in this audience anybody thought that. But
I know, that's what I thought as well.
call me old-fashioned, but looking out there, I don't think they think that. No.
And doesn't the word economy come from like looking after the house? Yeah, the home. So maybe that's got something. And not for the first time, talk this evening touched on how things perhaps benefit from being slightly more localised and community focused. And Gail Bradbrook presented to us her idea of the life house as a model to be explored for being in community and relationship with each other, I guess in a more sustainable way.
I think the putting back, one of our team talks about the reassembling of the rural economy so that actually you can have the things that you need that are close to you is definitely something we're interested in as to how you do that. It doesn't mean that Lord Stroud just left the building there.
There's another question, though, which is to do with, let us look at the Highlands of Scotland, where we're working with a project up in Forres, with Glasgow School of Art, about the fact that the land of the Highlands, which we all regard romantically with heather and stags and shortbread, I don't think shortbread's been wild up there for a long time. But
they don't knock shortbread.
No, they don't knock shortbread. That actually it used to be heavily populated as well as heavily wooded, and looking at how you can create economies in what are supposed to be wild, romantic places. And I think in 100 years' time we will be looking at the word farm as being an evil word, because I think we're going to look at the countryside in a different way, a bit like that question, which is that when you go to a farm nowadays, you see places full of lonely people because they can't afford labour, and yet they're very healing places. And I think we need to liberate our planning laws to allow people to turn farms into places which are schools, are medical places, or all sorts of things. And much like in Ireland, the farming lobby is not necessarily helpful to the future because they hate change. I know. I have spoken at the National Farming Conference and I saw death in front of me. No, it is the weirdest thing to look at 1,000 people, every one of them you would invite into your house because they're individually nice, but as a group they turn into a white shark. Their reason is taken from them and they become a collective.
My first ever talk at the age of 21 was in front of 60 farmers, and it was terrifying.
Did you have hair then?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Which brings me to my next question from the audience. What's wrong with Totnes? I feel like that one's aimed at me.
It's in Devon.
We've got a 9 o'clock stop, so we're not answering that.
No. It's just not Stroud, is it? That's all.
You lost.
I can't read that.
You lost the crowd, or you've lost sight. What?
Oh, don't ask.
Something to do with biscuits.
Biscuits?
If you were a biscuit.
Custard cream.
Can you do the DNA on that handwriting? I think they should.
We'll keep it, don't we?
They should be put to death.
Okay.
Remember that. Grilled slowly, maybe.
Different kind of democracy. Yeah.
God, that's a long question. Yeah.
What the hell was that question?
What was that question?
Should we get into it?
No.
No, but I mean, just to see if it's got any sense to it.
Have we got? No, that's all right. We'll come back to this one if there's.
That's the old meaning of life question.
Take your pick. Do you believe in God, and what do you vision boring? What's boring in 2026? What do you vision boring? No. That doesn't quite make sense.
Is that what they're calling me?
It's very specific, the time frame, in between now and 2030.
That's a hell of a word. It's either what do you vision boomerang?
Coming back around again, like back into fashion.
Do they mean boomerang or belonging?
Or boring.
Or bassooning. It could be.
Let's go with boring. What do you think is going to be boring? What's going to be boring about the next 4 years might be the most interesting.
What do you think that word is? He's got the youngest eyes.
What do you vision belonging? I think it's belonging. Yeah, belonging. Belonging. Yeah. What do you vision belonging in 2026 to 2030?
Wow. Does the question, do you think, mean what do you imagine will belong in that age, or what do you imagine we will assume the word belonging to mean during that period of time?
Well, I can, as a... This now will seem like this is a question put from me and very awkwardly delivered, because I'm hoping to write an essay. I've started an essay on the topic of belonging. And I've got to get it finished, and I might do that tomorrow afternoon.
So we've got to really do this well, haven't we? For
Yeah. I'm cramming,
that's all right. Do you want to answer that
We'll
first?
send him a WhatsApp from the car with our thesis.
Do you want to answer that one? I'm happy to, if you want.
Well, to be honest, I was going to go to ABOB land, Band of Brothers land, because belonging is part of that whole journey, and it's not something you just click your fingers on and say, you now belong. There is a whole thing about trust in there, and there's a whole thing about the feeling that you have and the purpose that you might have in that belonging. So you take your kitchen example as a great one as well. So I don't know if that's what's meant, but I think it's a super important human emotion to feel that we belong to a tribe, and to Tim's sort of storytelling, ape tribe particularly. So without belonging, then I think we're heading for a bad place.
Can I add to that?
Please.
I think that's a great answer, and I agree with that. There's another form of belonging, going back to that phrase, muscular localism. Any of you who haven't, or maybe most of you haven't, heard of a place called the Atelier Luma. It's worth looking up. The billionairess Maya Hoffman, whose granddad created WWF, she built the most fantastic art gallery in Arles, A-R-L-E-S, in South France, where Van Gogh used to paint. And it's an amazing gallery, and she commissioned Frank Gehry, the guy who did the Bilbao Guggenheim, to design it. But she had a very odd stipulation, not odd, inspired stipulation, which was to build the studio alongside where the gallery was going to be, which was predicated that a whole bunch of scientists and artisans were going to check a 30-mile circumference around where the art gallery was going to be built to do an audit of all the materials, everything that could be mined or grown in the soil in all of that area. And the gallery was going to be built out of it. And it was and is a stunning operation. Because what's happened, and it's really relevant to here actually, what's happened is they've realized that a whole bunch of industries have died out, a whole load of manufacturing processes, whether it be the growing of linseed for linen and so on, or flax, flax and hemp and whatever, have become uneconomic because of the cost of their processing. So what they've done is to link up with a whole bunch of universities and techno people to work out whether in the subsequent period since that industry died, has any technology come along which could bring it back to life? And in so many cases, it has.
Wow.
Now, if you live in a place like Stroud and you start to say, how about we all buy into, we want to eat everything that's grown within 30 miles of here, that we want to make our houses out of the stone, out of the thatch, all that good stuff. It recreates, it both recreates jobs that once were and makes them relevant in an artisanal form, but more interestingly, it creates jobs that never existed. I mean, we've been working with a project in County Down in Ireland. This family who used to be a famous linseed growing family, flax growing family, they, because of old times, were still growing 6 acres of flax a year and was making no money. And this geezer from Queen's University Belfast turns up. He says, I think I can make your 6 acres very profitable. Just do what I say. The next thing he said was unbelievable. I'm a hip hop artist. They thought it was going to be musical. It wasn't. This guy was a scientist who studied the bass woofers on a hip hop, the sound system.
Right.
And he had seen in a disco that when you put the big bass woofers on, absolute max volume, all the dust falls off everything. And so, as you all know, the way that you process flax is it's a plant with a thread in the middle of it, which is the fiber that's really valuable. But you've got to ret it. Retting means you wet it and let all the soft stuff rot off. And 60% of all the cost is in that cleaning off of what they call the dust of this stuff. So he said, string it all up in one of those copper distilling vats, and let me put some bass woofers on it and watch. And literally, in about half an hour, it had done what should have taken 6 days. Took a huge chunk. No, but isn't that exciting? When you think of all the really cool collaborations.
You're preaching to the converted. Linen, trousers and disco. I mean, doesn't get much more Stroud than that.
To be honest, I thought I'd actually seduce you beyond redemption.
Well, we have come to an end, and what a great thing to be led through right deep down into the earth, finding golden, what was it, coffee beans.
Golden coffee
We've
beans.
kissed some frogs.
Indeed.
Learnt plenty, shared a lot.
Well, I think I speak for both of us. We feel really at home here. Good bunch. Thank you for coming, everybody.